Hello, everybody. This is an unedited video response because I don't really want to take the time to edit it. So anything goes. It's a reply to the kind of dissatisfaction with my April video about whether or not anybody actually predicted the coronavirus pandemic. So what I'm going to basically do is read to you from the notes that I have prepared on the topic. So here it goes. So this is Did Anyone Predict Coronavirus Part 2? This is the follow-up. A lot of people expressed dissatisfaction with the video I released back in April, which was called Did Anybody Actually Predict Coronavirus? I guess I'll put a link to it in the description. Essentially, there's three grievances that they have about that video. The first thing is basically, how dare you make the video? I mean, who are you to rate and review the work of other astrologers? That's the first problem. The second problem people had was you rate everybody else, but you didn't criticize or rate yourself. And then the third problem is you didn't mention Joe Epic or Jane Amazing, who predicted coronavirus. Why didn't you mention them? So let's look at these three dissatisfactions right now here in this live recorded video. On the first issue about how dare I do this, peer review is an essential part of any healthy community. Any community in which peer review is discouraged is tyrannical. Sorry, so that's it. That's all there is to it. How dare I? Of course I dare. Okay. Then the second topic, which is basically, hey, critic, rate thyself. And why didn't you rate yourself or criticize yourself? What are you talking about? I totally did. In the video, I do openly express and review my own failure to predict the coronavirus pandemic. How did you miss that? The thing is, the video is about 6 particular astrologers who were either promoting themselves or allowing themselves to be promoted as people who predicted the coronavirus. I'm not one of those 6 people because I never claimed to predict the coronavirus, so why would I subject myself to the same evaluation? But however, I did, because to answer the rebuttal of, well, you're on all these people's cases, well, what did you do? So I did include that in the original video. Now, to the third point, which is this: you only mentioned these 6 people, but this other guy did it. He predicted it. So I included the 6 people that I included for 2 reasons. First reason is that these are the people that were actively being touted or touting themselves as the coronavirus predictors. And B, as far as I knew. I'm sorry, I don't know everybody and what everybody's saying. So I missed some people because I didn't know that they predicted this. Or it wasn't really about who predicted it, but who was claiming to have predicted it. So I did leave some people out. Let me therefore explain my criteria for evaluating the accuracy of an astrological prediction, and then apply that to a few of the people that I left out. And my hope is that in explaining the evaluation criteria, you don't need me to evaluate any particular individual. You can do it yourself. So the formula for evaluating the accuracy of an astrologer's prediction has 2 parts to it. The first part is the frequency, and the second part is the exactness. So to summarize it really briefly, if your predictions are few and short and straight to the point, then you are incredibly amazing. Your accuracy is godlike. If you make few, short, and extremely detailed predictions, that would be the highest scoring on my evaluation. On the other hand, if you make tons of predictions that ramble on and identify a billion possible things and don't really specify anything that's particularly unique, then you rate very low on my score sheet of how accurate your prediction is. That does make sense, right? I'm not just crazy with this. That's basically how you would evaluate the accuracy of any statement. To give you some examples about frequency, and then some examples about exactness. Frequency means like if you every week do your video and you predict 5 things are going to happen, well, that means over the course of a year, you're going to get 6 things right. Like Corey Dowds gave me this analogy of a broken clock. It's accurate twice a day, right? So if you're doing 5 predictions a week, well, over the course of a year, that's 260 predictions, and 6 of them came true. Wow, now you can promote those 6 predictions. But guess what? You got 254 wrong, and your actual accuracy rating is 2.3%. That's what I'm talking about with frequency. And this actually turned out to be the case with the 6 people, most of the 6 people that I reviewed. And that was the thing that irked me and impelled me in the first place to make the video, because I felt that it's quite deceptive to do that. Now, the second part of this formula for determining the accuracy of an astrological prediction, it's not just the frequency, but the exactness. So in other words, how vague or long-winded is it, or how short and exactly to the point is it? So to give you an illustration of this, in particular with 2020, right? If you predicted that there would be trouble in 2020, you're not inaccurate. That's an accurate prediction. But it's not a prediction of the coronavirus pandemic, right? There's partial accuracy in saying 2020 would be troubling. Or if you give more details, like if you say 2020 will be marked by financial unrest and financial trouble and social unrest, and especially if you use a word like extreme or unusual, unprecedented, now that exactness of your prediction is increasing. So for it to be like 100% on the exact scale, you would need to say something like, there will be a pandemic beginning to spread early in the year, originating in Asia, primarily affecting the respiratory system, resulting in major economic and social upheaval for at least a year. If you could say something like that, you're amazing. You are legendary, godlike astrologer, 100% accuracy. You deserve to be spoken about in the Puranas for the rest of history. That's what I'm talking about here. Now, what I want to be very upfront with you all about is nobody did that. Nobody that I know about did that. Now, even if they did it once, even if they made 360 predictions that year and one of them was that accurate, I would be pretty amazed. But to have somebody that made like one prediction and that prediction was that accurate, that's what we're talking about when you front as saying, I am 100% accurate. And definitely nobody does this. There are no astrologers that can do that. That's what I'm trying to communicate to people. And at the end of this discussion, I'll explain to you why I'm trying to communicate that. And it doesn't mean that astrology is not useful. It's actually, let's segue into this now. Why even bother talking about this? People naturally see the world through their own eyes, so they have lots of misconceptions about why I would put out a video like that. I'm not trying to say this astrologer is better than that astrologer and I'm better than them all. Guess what? That's not my thing. What I'm trying to say is, here's some people who are being deceptive. I want to point this out to you, that these guys are deceiving you and saying that their predictions are accurate, or that they predicted the coronavirus in any way that you would be able to make any use from. Like if there was a fire in the house and I predicted that there would be a fire in the house, but I also predicted that there would be 55,000 other things that happened in the house, then you wouldn't really be able to make use of my fire prediction because you wouldn't listen to it. It would be lost in the garble of everything else. So what I'm trying to say is, people who use astrology, I'm trying to communicate something to the people who use astrology. First of all, to the astrologers, don't expect to not be peer reviewed and just get away with promoting yourself as anything you want to promote yourself with. But To the more, what I care about more is the people who use astrology. To you guys, I'm trying to say, don't expect unrealistically pinpoint accuracy from astrologers. If you expect that from astrology, you won't ask the right questions and you won't utilize the information in the right way, and therefore you won't really benefit from the astrology. Now, finally, let's move on to the topic about astrologers that I missed. So I'm thinking maybe I should include another 6 or something, but I don't feel like it. It's too painstaking, and also no matter how many more I include, there's always going to be more. Well, let me at least talk about 3 that were brought to my attention most recently that inspired me to make this video. Ernst, Willem, Ganesh, I'm not sure of the rest of his name, and Corey Dowds. So with Ernst, it was 2017 when he told friends in his living room while they were eating a gigantic salad that the eclipse inaugurating 2020 indicated 2020 would be a terrible year with major global economic and survival issues. That is a great prediction. It's very high rating. There's a lot to respect in that prediction. That is no surprise to me because Ernst Willem is top class astrologer. He's easily in the highest circle of the most impressive and respectable astrologers. Why do I say this is so respectable? Because it scores high on both the frequency and the exactness. He doesn't give a lot of predictions. And that's A, frequency. And B, he pretty much nailed it. It's short and it's basically accurate. Now, I'm not going to say that Ernst predicted the coronavirus because he didn't. He predicted something close to it, but he didn't actually identify anything like a plague or a disease or a pandemic. Am I nitpicking? Yeah, that's nitpicking. If I was your client and you told me, next month is going to be really difficult for you, you could stop there. That's really useful information for me. Whether it comes from a disease in my stomach or a disease in my nose, it's pinpoint information that I can't expect you to be reliably accurate on. I shouldn't expect you to be. And I shouldn't hinge the viability of your information on that kind of accuracy. So Ernst basically got this statement really, really correct, and that's really, really important. But it's not a prediction of the coronavirus. Does it mean he's not a good astrologer because he couldn't predict the coronavirus? No, he's an amazing astrologer. But it means that people that think that good astrologers can predict the coronavirus don't understand what astrology is like. They don't understand what fate is like and how complex and fluid and non-concrete fate itself is, or time itself is. So that's Ernst. Then there's another one named Ganesh who predicted financial disaster for the month of March 2020. So again, this is like Ernst's statement. It's very impressive. It's an impressive prediction. It's not a prediction of the coronavirus, but it's an impressive prediction. The reason why I say it's not a prediction of coronavirus is because he didn't say there's a virus or there's an epidemic or there's a disease at all. Financial disaster is accurate, but it's a result of what happened. It's not the core of what happened. And also, whether or not it's limited to March is debatable. Now, the third person we'll add to our review is Corey. So Corey maybe got himself into this because he's the one that got on my case about the video just yesterday or today and inspired me to make this. So maybe now he wishes that he didn't. Well, hopefully not, because I like Corey. But since he's the one that instigated this, let's give him a little bit more scrutiny. At the end of November, he issued some predictions, and then again at the end of December. In the end of November, he got the basic issue correct, which is that there's an eclipse at the end of that year that indicates what he called world-changing events for 2020. Okay, he didn't predict the coronavirus, but he got that part right. He got something right about it. The details of the things that he predicted in November is like a wide variety. It was a long post of political, economic, and social problems. None of those political, economic, or social problems were particularly unusual. They happen quite often. And actually, none of them, as far as I saw, were things that weren't already happening in the news. So, this is what I mean about the vagueness of a prediction. Has there been a year in recent history that we haven't had incidents that illustrate or typify the kind of things that he predicted would happen in 2020, which is loss of trust in leaders, social unrest and violence, and attempts to manipulate and suppress information? I don't think so. You would be hard pressed to find a year in which you couldn't find significant events illustrating this type of stuff. So it scores not so high in the exactness category. Then how about the predictions that he issued at the end of December? He said there would be extreme flooding in Asia or other parts of the world, and that more people may have water retention issues, swelling, constipation, or issues with blood flow. So it's the same. My review here is the same thing. Is it inaccurate? Not really. Is it accurate? Kinda. So it's too much of a stretch to say, wow, he predicted coronavirus. It's irresponsible or it's deceptive to make that stretch. He predicted people would get ill more than usual. People get ill all the time and frequently it happens more than usual. He predicted floods. Wow, and then there was a flood in Jakarta. But floods are the most common natural disaster. The World Health Organization has information about this kind of stuff. They state that, quote, floods are the most frequent type of natural disaster. And floods, quote, have affected more than 2 billion people over the last about 20 years, a little less than 20 years. So it's pretty easy to make a prediction about. I'm not suggesting that he intentionally did this. Not at all. Corey's a totally upstanding person. But what I'm saying is this prediction is not easy to get wrong, the type of thing that he made. He did say that more people than usual may get ill related to water. And you could say, well, they got pneumonia, which is related to water. All right, but how high is that on the accuracy scale? It's not wrong, but I think it's stretching to say that he actually predicted coronavirus. He deserves respect. Why? Because he got the basic thing right. And that's what you should look for in an astrologer, that they're basically giving you accurate information. The basic thing about 2020 is that it sucks. Now, of course, all the new agey people are going to say, no, it doesn't suck. It's actually the greatest opportunity of our lives because of all this stuff. Yeah, but that's always true. Objectively speaking, 2020 is the pits. It's one of the worst years that we've had since the last plague that we had. So it's kind of amazing that people didn't realize that, myself included. But he did come out and say he was one of the people who came out and said that 2020 ain't going to be great. And that puts him in a class of people that were at least reasonably accurate, because believe me, there are plenty of astrologers that are not in that class. And they were just telling you how 2020 is going to be the best year of your life, and 2020 is the opportunity that you've been waiting for, and all this stuff that you just write in any tabloid to fill up your astrology section. So this is what I'm trying to tell people. I'm trying to tell people that it's unrealistic to expect pinpoint accuracy from astrologers. And if you fail to admit this as an astrologer, or if you fail to realize this as a person using astrology, then it's actually going to interfere with your ability to use astrology, because you'll be trying to use it in ways that it's not suited for. The The way that karma and fate and destiny works is so complicated that a god has to be in control of it. And that god himself, Yama, needs an assistant, Chitraketu. And that assistant needs hosts of assistants, the Pitri. And Chitraketu is an expansion of the mind of Vishnu, just to deal with fate. So to expect some guy born in New York in 1970 or wherever or whatever, some common human being or uncommon human being to be able to give you what Chitraketu and Yamaraj and the Pitri struggle to do is just not realistic. Use astrology to get the basic, accurate picture of yourself, your future, your past, etc., to point yourself in the right direction to understanding your past, present, and future, and you yourself engage in doing the rest of the work to get the rest of the details right. That is the message that I'm trying to convey here with my review of the so-called predictions, specifically predictions about coronavirus. I hope this doesn't cause more ruckus and bile, but I'm sure it will because people love that stuff. So I will just say Haribol, Namaste, and thank you very much.